What's going on, guys? Just checking things out here. Hold on. God, this takes for a while. It takes a long time. There we go. There we go. Okay, fantastic. Hey, guys, morning to you. Sorry I'm a little late. And probably stop that from coming in. Good morning. Sean from How to RPG, Gaming BS, GM Mastermind, streaming Saturdays, 8 a.m. for all your tabletop RPGs talk with help from the chat. Joe Swick, Chris, Todd, Harrigan, Tad. See you all. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Sorry for my tardiness. I was talking to Brett. We'll be on in just a few minutes. He's probably monitoring the chat. Nubis, good afternoon to you. I could probably take these off for now. In case Brett talks, he'll distract me. The sultry sounds of GBS. Yeah, something like that. There he is. How's everybody doing this fine day, evening, whenever you watch this after the fact? Gonna have Brett on in a few minutes to talk about spotlight hogging. Spotlight hogging. So do you have a player at the table that likes to spotlight a little bit too long? Like, hey, I got this. Let me talk a little bit. And they talk and they talk some more. Ugh, looking at my cats. Anyways, question of the day. Question of the day. If you were your own player character in a game. If you were your own player character, so if you could transpose yourself into a tabletop role-playing game, which one would it be? If you were to transpose you into an alternate reality, and it is a tabletop role-playing game setting, I guess, setting, game, what would it be? Because there's plenty of games, I think I might have asked this, there's plenty of games that we like to play and run, but probably wouldn't want to live. Firsthand. So let me know. I'm interested to hear. No wrong answers. What you transposed yourself? You magically woke up in a world of your choosing in the tabletop RPG world. What would it be? Morning skating, then off to a model railroad club open house to see trains. Trains! I don't have my music queued up. Then the Mario movie. Todd Crapper, spotlight hogging, eh? Well, that makes me to takes me to a 20,000 word tale about the time I couldn't find the right light bulb for my table. Allow me to become the focus, and I'll tell you all about it. Chris says, I mean, I like money, and they offered me money for my time. So the tabletop role-playing game that you would be transposed to or into, what would that be? For me, I gotta say it's probably gotta be Star Wars. Who wouldn't want to live in the Star Wars galaxy? Says probably everybody in the chat. Brett says Middle Earth. Brett's a Middle Earth aficionado. Any particular spot in Middle Earth, Brett? And Brett doesn't like Star Wars. That's terrible. Gabe Dibbing. Tune. That's hilarious. Tune. That is hilarious. Tune. Gabe, would you run around with like with a big mallet clubbing everybody over the head? Tad Leckman says, all of the games I play put the characters in pretty terrible positions. Oh, wait. Yes. Star Wars. Hey. Gabe says I would. Or the big anvil, right? Dropping anvils from cliffs. I could see that. I would love to see your like character portrait, Gabe. Harrigan says, don't have one. Star Trek. Post scarcity. Star Trek would be a good one. That's a good one. I can understand Star Trek. There's a lot of good stuff going on in Star Trek world. Wayne Peacock, good to see you. Good morning. Good morning to you too, Gabe. I didn't say good morning, so good morning to you as well. Wayne says, good society. It's the Jane Austen RPG. Just get to go to parties. No funnels, only cake. No funnels. Haha. That's a reference to the DCC world, people. Nubis, ultraviolet grasslands would be interesting. I do not have that. It probably would be interesting. Chris says it really depends on what I am in that world, but Star Trek is pretty idyllic. James Bond says Orcus Dorcas 007 with all the sweet 1980s tech. Word. Checking my cats, those little buggers peeing outside my litter box. Tad says +1 for ultraviolet gaslands. Grasslands, not gaslands. Gaslands, grasslands, grasslands. Did I just hit 800 subscribers? Sweet. Goal's 1,000. Got to get to 1,000 to be monetized to make my 25 cents a month. But thank you for everybody that's subscribed. I wouldn't be able to get to 1,000 without you. It's those shorts. Oh, yeah. I was like, you mean the shorts I'm wearing? Yeah. They're fire, Chris says. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. We'll see. I think I like them. Brett says, I had forgotten to subscribe, so I did this morning. Hey, thanks, buddy. You might have been Brett, you might have been the 800th subscriber. Woo! Please don't hit all 800. You might lose some or get arrested. Hey-o. Where's my t-shirt? Man, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no t-shirts. All right. If you could, I don't know who else has joined. I don't think anybody else has joined. But if you could transpose yourself into a tabletop RPG, which one would it be? I think Star Trek probably it's got to be the easiest, right? Come on, really. Like, what other property out there would be? All the other ones it'd be like, I gotta travel the countryside, kill monsters, find food, uncover horror, go insane. Gotta say, Star Trek probably wouldn't be too bad. There's some episodes of Star Trek that wasn't completely full of danger. Star Wars is a brutal setting. Yeah, I think you can probably sit on a planet somewhere. But it is not a miss for sure. Star Wars definitely has its challenges. It's probably not a great Star Trek. Probably some, hey, you're stateside, Earth side, I guess. And, after all the wars and everything and poverty being eliminated and all that good stuff, it's probably pretty kumbaya until you get into space. Chris says, dude, there's almost always some kind of rebellion or war or something. Yeah, there is. For sure. But you could have a lightsaber or laser blasters. Nubis, Wanderhome would be easy, right? I don't know. I mean, I know of the game. I just don't know how awesome it would be. William Thorpe, morning, probably Star Trek, he says. Harry says, great to watch, terrible to experience. Regarding most of the settings, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Probably enjoy them because we're not. Like foraging and looking for gold in crappy dungeons. Wayne says, let's face it, most trad RPGs, our stats would suck. Mine would. Come on, Wayne. Don't be like that. I don't believe that for a minute. All right. Joe Swick, Dex and Charisma are like a 4. If you play the Fantasy Flight Games End of the World series, role-playing games, you actually play yourself. That sounds a little weird, but you are your character in the game, and you actually stat yourself out. And then the players weigh in so that it doesn't totally get skewed. It's an interesting one. Adam Ness, hey, good to see you, Adam. At least in Tales from the Loop, you're guaranteed to survive. And Tales from the Loop, that might be an interesting one. That's a good one. CJ, most superhero RPG settings would be pretty good to wake up in. Yeah. Do superheroes feel it when they get punched in the face? Adam Ness, but being a kid in the 80s would be fun. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I have some fond memories as a kid, but I don't know if I would want to return to them. Because it's the moment, right? You don't have any reflection. Now, if you were to be transposed into Tales from the Loop now, knowing what you know now, cakewalk. Chris says, yeah, man, let me wake up in icons as a person with powers. Yeah. It could be like Heroes, right? The NBC series, Heroes. It's kind of cool. And then it depends on what you run into is the evil bad. Because, I'm sure trying to save the world has no pressure on it. Protecting your loved ones from being exposed by the evil bad and using that connection as leverage to, make your life miserable. I'm sure that's not a big deal. Todd Crapper, Heroes. Yeah, it started out really good and then not so much. Orcus Dorcas says, I pretty much live Tales from the Loop minus the monsters and supernatural oddities. No thank you. For sure. Yeah. Chris, assuming I go the superhero route. CJ, stop Merkborg or Dying Earth may be the worst. Well, that might be next week's. What is the worst? Probably Cult. I'm going to go with Cult on that one. Todd says, I only count the first season. The rest is an optional web series. I agree. Totally agree. Totally stoked in the first series. Like, yes, very cool. This has a lot of potential. How does everybody, how is this all taking shape? And then, yeah, it got ridiculous. I don't even think I saw the ending. Wraith would be a terrible setting. Hey, let's not get on that side of things yet. Save that one for next week, because I'll forget. All right. It It's about quarter after. I didn't want to make Brett wait too long. So let's get him on the horn, shall we? So we could talk about the topic du jour. Brett, as you know, has hit me up and every once in a while I'll say, hey, got something to talk about. I say, okay, Saturday's fine. Let's do it. So what do you want to talk about? He said, I don't know, whatever you want. I said, okay, don't you have anything? And he says, how about spotlight hogging? Because I think Brett might be experiencing that in his group. So without further ado, Brett, good to see you. Man. Okay, good to see you, buddy.
And you, I was just going to go get some coffee. And I'm like,
8:15, 2 minutes.
Not bad.
If you want to go, I could probably talk for another 5.
No, I'll be fine. I might break in a bit. We'll see how far we go.
So for those of you not in the know, Brett and I hosted Gaming and BS because BS stands for a couple things, not to be shirt. We did it for 7 years, over 400 episodes. So we sunsetted that in June, but Brett and I did not break up like Simon and Garfunkel. Kept in touch, and having him on the show is not like a point of contention. So
no, it's not. At least usually not.
What's going on?
Until Sean just wants to tell me how wrong I am, when that just makes me sad.
Come on.
What's going on? I don't know,
well, what's going on in the gaming space of Brett? Like what? What are you running? Let me guess. D&D, AD.
Yeah, Ravenloft.
Ravenloft.
Yeah, my buddy. I do a thing often where I ask my gaming group, I'm like, what do you guys want to do? And a number of people are like, oh, I don't know, whatever. And Lenny hit me up. He goes, he said, I've never played in Ravenloft. I'm like, really? He said, no, never. Is like a campaign or anything like that. And I said, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to do a little quasi bait and switch reveal thing. So we started off in Greyhawk. They made a mercenary company. And they were like the last of this. You set them up in mid-arrays where it's like they're the last group of like 12 surviving the big slaughter. They're running away. They encounter some weirdness. The mists occur, and next thing you know, when they walk out of the creepy mansion, they're in Ravenloft. Well, hell. So they're trying to figure things out. Who's who, what's what. And some of them are trying to figure out if they want to get home. Other people are trying to figure out why they got pulled in, and so on. So far, so good. It's been a lot of fun. I've got, let's see here. That's the main one that I'm running.
Are you running that AD&D, the original I9? Oh, okay.
Well, not the original module, just it's the second edition setting. The guys wanted to use first edition rules.
Oh.
So the box sets, the maps, Darkon versus Falkovnia with Barovia, and the Rift and blah, 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 blah.
So you're not running the module as
no,
the original?
No, I'm not running the original module. That was the request. And it's kind of fun when for me, because the guys I game with my core group, when I pull something out like that, when someone says, hey, I'd like to play this, I'm like, I can do that. That sounds fun. I know it. Somebody's into it. And then, you go through it and the group's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I'm like, yeah, Lenny asked for it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a good idea. So at least I know at that point when I brought out an idea, at least one dude's into it. Somebody's into it. And then the rest of the group, if you want to say you don't like it, you got to disappoint both me and that person. So a little more buy-in, maybe. That's pretty cool. AJ's still running his, I'm really proud of him and Alana because they're both running campaigns at the house, like every week or every other week, which is cool. They finally found some good gaming groups to run with, which is a lot of fun.
Are they running 5th edition still, or?
Yep, that's what they want to run. My youngest is a lot like me, where she's constantly tinkering and playing and figuring out like, ooh, maybe I could make this system, or I could build that thing, or whatever. She just loves to. She's the same person who likes to deconstruct languages and figure out, teaching herself, Hmong and in German class, and figuring out, she loves that crap, like tearing pieces and parts apart and making stuff. So kind of, I think she got that from me. never quite happy with it as written. I want to see if I can make it better, type of thing. So that's pretty cool. What have you been doing, man?
So gaming every week, alternating
Cool.
weeks with alternating groups. One, we just did session 0 for Star Wars. So that group was the previous Forbidden Lands group.
Which Star Wars?
FFG.
Okay.
Force 5 from Alderaan premise. So it's going to be a short arc.
Yeah, but you've been wanting to do that for a while.
I have. But what is that? It's just the tone, right?
Well, I know, but I'm just saying you and you've talked about that with me for 7 years previously.
Yeah.
And like having a focus on it, I think that's going to be fun for you.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just to see how it works.
Right. So we have 2 people that have not played the game before. So going to start session 1 in 2 weeks, and hopefully it'll only be, maybe 3 sessions, ideally. And I don't see why I wouldn't. I think I can wrap Star Wars up pretty easily. The other alternating week is the ongoing longer Delta Green Impossible Landscapes campaign.
How's that going? That's either a good laugh or a bad laugh. Like, oh.
I will say it's interesting. It's how do I say this? Because like there's probably 2 or 3 of the guys. At least one of the guys is in the chat. And I don't think it's any.
Are your players fucking it up?
No,
it's terrible.
I laugh because it's a big campaign. It's got a lot of stuff to it.
Well, just physically, the book is imposing from a campaign perspective.
The book is big, and there are things that in any Delta Green game, if the players just decide to go left instead of right, you got to kind of roll with it. So, and it's funny, and I laugh because last session, it was started out with like 5 people. Now we're down to 3, but Edwin was out. So we had 2 players, but it was at a point in kind of how things were going that I could run with 2.
Got it.
While those 2 got arrested. Literally
happens.
Well,
it does. And that's the funky part about an investigation game like Delta Green. You're trying to be, all that shit's possible.
For sure.
The wrong thing, the wrong amount of pressure. You punch the wrong NPC. You yell at the wrong person. You speed down the road at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And one thing leads to another. And
well,
you're looking at doing a nickel in the local pen. Like, really?
Yeah. So now, but I didn't see that coming. Like, I'm like, it's
okay.
and it wasn't. Yeah. But I think most of the guys have the campaign, but they haven't read it, or they glossed over it briefly, but they don't have a lot. Maybe they read the first few pages and then set it aside because they knew we were going to play it. So when we get done and they start like looking at it and reading it, and if they run it, they're going to probably be like, holy cow, like we did this, we didn't do that. How did this come up? So yeah, Harrigan says, I read nothing and it shows. So it's fun, but Delta Green can be a big challenge on running. And especially if it's a campaign setting, or even a published adventure, because as opposed to pre-published, of course.
Correct.
But if you're doing that, you kind of have, they do a relatively good job of saying, okay, if this happens and then this happens, and oh, by the way, if they don't cover their tracks here, it's going to come and bite them in the ass later and all this. But when it's as
big,
it's
very open-ended. It's very open-ended and large, and you can only flowchart out so much.
Right.
I can't remember. I think it might have been who said it, but it was like, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Right. So you've got to be prepared and understand it, but you can't, in that type, at least in my experience anyway, and I think you're feeling the same thing. If you try to saying, no, you're off script type of deal. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And they're going to go other ways. And for my money, in heavy investigative games like Delta Green, where what I mean by investigative, of course, is when the players they have to go find the clues, put it together, and follow a chain of reasoning. There's no obvious quest. It can be a very nebulous thing to solve. They're trying to get the details. They can be pinned by a chain of reasoning that makes no sense to anyone but them.
Oh, that has occurred as well.
Yeah, where you suddenly describe how an NPC delivers data, and Brett goes, "Oh my god,
yeah,
that means they did it." And Harrigan looks at me and goes, "I don't know if you're right." No, man. And then we argue back and forth, and suddenly I got Harrigan on my side. Like, yeah, it's this. He's the son of a bitch who did it. We got to track him down. It turned out it's not. Sean just used a strange turn of phrase or misspoke or any number of things, or I just read it wrong. And the players could suddenly be off, looking for every red herring they can find. Self-imposed.
I've had that happen too. So I've run a few scenarios at Delta Green, so I won't mention what group it was or anything. But yeah, it was. It's funny because one of the guys in the Forbidden Lands group, Phil McClory, has run one of the scenarios I ran, and I told him what was going on. He's like, "What? What are they doing?" And I go, "Dude, I don't know." He's like, "Oh my god!" And so it's kind of bouncing off like what the situation is and what direction the player characters are going. So then you have to kind of adjust on the fly and try to still get them the stuff that they need to move forward with what's going on in it, but that's okay. It's fine. It's like a weird, so we talk about doing homebrew, right? And you're like, I'm going to make up my homebrew setting and all, I know everything and I don't need to
design my own adventure.
And it's all up here and I can make some notes and I can convey that to the party. And since it's my thing, it's kind of in my brain. I don't have to remember what I read for 3 chapters and the points and the relationships, because it's kind of like it's coming from my heart, my brain.
Yeah.
And then you got published, which is on the other end. So you're like, oh, okay. You walk into a tavern and this person sees you, blah, 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 blah. In Delta Green, it's like you have the published adventure, but it doesn't mean any of it's going to go the way you want it to at all.
So I'll tell you, man, even I ran, I think I've talked about this back in the old show, but I ran a White Plume Mountain first edition game years and years ago. And my buddy Kev Thulu was there, and we just had a blast. And characters were dying left, right, and center. And it was fucking murder. Instant super tetanus. People died from that. All sorts of shit. And he posted this on Twitter somewhere. I can't remember which, or G Plus back in the old days.
Yeah.
And somebody says, your DM sucks, i.e. me, because that adventure's not that brutal. And I'm like, Kevin's like, I don't know, man. I was there. I've read it, and it can be. But so he and I were talking about it. This is 8 years ago, but I remember the conversation, and I'm like, man, did I fuck something up? And he said, no, you just reacted to what we did. He said, it was all within, he said, I know that adventure, but it was all within the spirit of what we did. He said, we were doing some crazy, stupid shit. We got frustrated, and somebody went, fine, I touch it. It's like, they got frustrated. Like I hit it with my sword. They got to that annoying point where they did something dumb, and then the Oni almost kills them. Like, fuck. They did some really clever things and avoided some things that may have been certain death, but they literally, did some of the dumbest things possible. Practically like, well, whatever, I'll drink it, see what happens, Yeah. And that's the piece, the published adventure or whatever, you can't bank on the players doing the quote unquote right thing or the written thing. No matter how juicy that bait looks in front of them. Sometimes they're like, yeah, you know what? I really want a dry cracker, and they walk away. They walk away. They leave they leave the other thing. You just wander off on you. It happens.
Orcus Dorcas. I know he's been involved in the same. He's been in Impossible Landscapes. And he started out earlier than I did, and he says, Delta Green scenarios can be rough, but toss in the King in Yellow, and it adds a whole new twisted element that moves it outside your standard Delta Green game, which is true. Like I think with this Impossible Landscapes, it'll be an interesting. I'll do a video on it because I did a video on running Forbidden Lands, like some tips for people that are like, I've never run this. How, what should I keep in mind?
The how-tos,
yeah, some of the pitfalls and things like that. And if somebody's going to run Impossible Landscapes, I'll have to make a relatively short, succinct list of how to use it, that, or at least put them in the headspace where instead of reading it and going, all right, I kind of got this. And then, whoop, and you're like, oh man, I have absolutely none of this.
So I think I have played in Horror on the Orient Express, right?
Yeah.
And Mask of Nyarlathotep and Masks. And it's a globe. Both of those are massive.
They are.
Far as you can go all over the goddamn globe. You could grab the wrong clue in Masks and end up in Africa way before, quote unquote, you should be in Africa. Could happen easily. And part of what's, for me, one of the things that's a challenge in the Cthulhu mythos realm of games is that the chain of reasoning, the logic, understanding the bad guy's motivations and so forth is impossible. If it's the King in Yellow, if it's Hastur, if it's Nyarlathotep itself, Cthulhu, these are alien, bizarre ass entities. You'd have to chat about that before, but it's I subscribe very much to, like, you can't understand it.
No.
You literally can't, and it can be very frustrating for some players because, like, yeah, but all the signs point to this. Why is it not this thing? I don't know. Ask Yogg Sothoth. I got nothing.
It's
just
in Impossible Landscapes with the King and Yellow, and Dorcas knows the deal. It's turned up to like 20. If Masks and Murder or Horror on the Orient Express are like Call of Cthulhu games turned up to 10, Impossible Landscapes turned up to 20. And I only say that because I don't want to give. I don't think it's any secret. It's because people find themselves in a reality that doesn't, like, it's not the same. Like
and that's part of the fun of that game and that entity, the King of Yellow and stuff.
So we could hash on that for a little while.
Oh, totally, man.
But one of the things you had mentioned was spotlight hogging. And Brett, come on, who's doing it, man? Just tell me. Is it Lenny? It's Lenny.
No,
isn't
no,
it?
no, no.
Zave.
No,
it's Zave.
Not.
It's
a
Zave.
little bit.
Just call him out on the show. It's Alpha, Beta.
It's Zave and Nick.
See, two of them.
Yeah. So what's interesting is it's like I jokingly call it spotlight hogging, and I think what's interesting is I've seen this in a number of groups over the years, and I think some of my players, I want to say we all do it in my gaming group. It depends who's running or whatever it is. Sometimes when there's a scene happening with another player and you're adjacent to it, your character's adjacent, or you're, whatever. It is very, it's fun to watch other people have fun sometimes, right? You're like, oh my God, Lenny's in a bind. Ooh, let's see what happens. A little one-on-one action. Let's see what goes. And sometimes we natively in my group source the table. Someone will go, hey, here's an idea. And then we'll play off of it back and forth and whatnot. That's cool. And sometimes though, and I'm just picking on Nick and Zave because it happened last time, we had a fun encounter in Ravenloft. And it was set where it was Alpha and Lenny were the two going to interact with the weird little goblin creature. And it was, so it sounds arrogant, but it was so much fun. We were having so much fun that Nick and Zave literally could not contain themselves. They had to get in on the action. Well, my character would wake up and there's like, and I would do this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to get involved because they didn't want to miss out on the fun. And I had a flash in my head that said, I should tell them no. I should shut them down. But everybody wanted to have fun, right? At this moment. And I didn't know how to say, no, sit down. That's not your cookie. It's theirs. Let them eat their cookie and you can I'll get you next time type of thing. In that moment, I wasn't sure how to politely, because these guys are my friends. I've known these guys for 30 some years, and not be, dude, shut the fuck up. I've done that in the past. If things get way out of hand, I can hammer on somebody because, again, I've known them for a long time. Well, I'm like, I don't want to cause a fight or have this weird explosion. So, you kind of like, you try to ease people into stuff, but when there's so much fun happening, people, I'm in. It's like, give them an inch, take a mile type of thing. And I've since thought through the scene. It happened when mostly characters, excuse me, are sleeping, and the creature wakes up Alpha while Lenny's trying to talk to him, and it's basically just a three creature scene, 2 players, characters, and my little monster. So what I should have done, because it's a mystical, magical thing, I could have said, no one else can wake up. You guys are dead asleep. You don't even hear this. I could have shut them down, and their characters wouldn't have been involved. But it was, I could see that Lenny was annoyed, and Alpha was annoyed. And annoying Alpha is really hard. You hit Alpha with a 2x4, and he's like, come on, really? 5 more of those, I'm going to be mad at you. It takes a lot to get Alpha frustrated. He was pretty frustrated about it, and I was trying to figure out, what the hell could I have done? And I think one of the reasons why it was frustration and not anger was that I don't think Zave and Nick realized what they were doing. It was just they wanted to have fun. At that moment, it just was the most fun thing happening, and they wanted to be engaged.
They were on the ride, man, and they wanted to be on the ride too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think that so again, thinking about it post is then in Delta Green or other games when you split the party, right? And it happens a lot for me anyway in Call of Cthulhu style games or World of Darkness games. So people are like, all right, you go over here, you go over there, you talk to the cop, you head over there, and you're doing your smash cuts and you're jumping back and forth. And sometimes the scene for players A, B, and C is a hell of a lot more fun than for D and E. For whatever reason, the player who went after the homeless people shows up and realizes all the homeless people are murdered in the little back alley. Oh my God, there's clues all over the place, and there's gore and blood and crazy descriptions.
It's part of the scenario.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, that sounds like fun. Not that dead homeless people's fun, but that's in the story scenario. Here we got something. And somebody else wants to go talk to the librarian, and try as you might, the librarian, first off, doesn't know a fucking thing. You're on the wrong track. It's a stupid red herring, and it's boring, quite frankly, compared to all the dead people in the alley or this big thing that you discovered. And it is very natural for players to say, can I join them now? I'd be over there because this would have ended and I would have been over there, right? So I'm on my way, right? And they want to logic their way into the action because it's fun. It's what's going on. And what I often do normally is someone will say, well, I would be there, but not yet. You're on your way. Okay, cool. Let me know when I get there. Because that's the pause button, the snooze. Hit them. Just hang on. Let me play a little bit over here. And then at a good time, and Zave arrives. Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Oh, God. Oh, tell me all about the dead bodies. Oh, I heard everything. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. They go through the spiel. But I think it's interesting in that I thought about it as like the spotlight's over here. And so it's like, oh, I want that. And they kind of try to come in and chew the scenery a little bit. Like, oh, no, me. Look at me. Reminds me of the old, what was it, the 70s Batman TV show where Burt Ward said that one of the reasons that Robin used to spit his lines out so wicked fast was because Adam West would stomp on his lines whenever possible because you don't want anybody else to talk. And I think it's really natural that people want to get in on the fun when the group is split up, or if something's happening, even in a fight, in a classic D&D fight, something happens and everybody wants to go fight the biggest, baddest thing. There's the undead necromancer and a handful of skeletons and zombies. Nobody wants to deal with the mooks, man. Nobody wants to pull mook guard. Everyone wants the necromancer. That's where the juice is. That's where I want to go. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. And I think sometimes it's purposefully damaging where some people are just dicks. And if they don't have the attention, they will do anything they can to disrupt the game, steal stuff, make sure it stays on them at all times, won't relinquish, don't like it when anybody else. But I think this is just a different form of kind of spotlight thieving in a way, is there's too much fun happening somewhere else. They want to get engaged. And so that's my little story on that, Sean. Have you had that? And what do you do with it? Or are your games just not that fun? No,
well, my players kind of sit tight and they
wait for the magic.
They wait patiently, knowing that that somebody's it's their scene, if you will. They may be biting their lip the whole time, literally on the edge of their seats going, oh God, if I were just there, I could say this. I could. Yeah. And there are players that will maybe say, okay, well, I'm not there. But I could probably give you a piece of advice. And then it's, the player does look at the other player and go, okay, well, go ahead. And then the game master will be, do you let that person chime in and you're not there. You're not there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on. Or you just go, whatever. I don't care. If you want to tell them, that's fine. So I don't get that very often with the groups that I play with recently now, but I understand why it happens. The only thing I would say in your situation, because you've kind of clearly painted the picture, if you will, in the example, is, I mean, one way around it is you try to make the library interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not easy because you're like, I got nothing.
You're going up and down rows of books. Yeah, fun.
I'm a pretty creative guy, and I do a lot of improv. But I'm tapped on this one. I got nothing.
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah. The one thing I have a concern with, going to your point, is that time thing, because I think in like the situations where you split parties, which aren't okay. So in the games that you split the party, it's usually because they're not known for you to just disappear without a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's not required that, you went into a room that requires a thief and you're not the thief and you're by yourself and you can't defend yourself.
The scenario is built for this. Like,
yes.
There's too many threads for you guys to go en masse. You and Shaggy go this way. We're going to split up. You got to split the Scooby Gang, because if you don't, you'll never get it done.
But I think the reason people don't split up is because they're used to getting totally screwed if they're by themselves. In the games that encourage it, it doesn't happen as people would think. You could totally get screwed over by yourself, but usually that's not the thing.
Well, that's usually your fault, right? If you go and try to talk to the librarian, you decide that you're going to be a jerk and punch the librarian in the face. Well, guess who gets arrested? Right. Well, now you're in trouble. Well, that's your fault. You're the one, you're the dumbass who punched the librarian.
It's not because a shambling mound is coming down the you have no exit and it's going to eat you.
Yeah.
Having said that, where was I going to go with this? So they split up. The problem I have is in those situations and in those games where the party can split up is it's a timing thing. So it's like, okay, you guys meet for breakfast and you've kind of decided which direction each one of you are going to go.
Correct.
After you kind of pay the bill, you get in your cars and you go and do your thing. Yep. So whether a thing takes longer to drive there and yours doesn't, I think that sometimes, I mean, as Gary Gygax says, you can't run a good role-playing game without proper timekeeping.
We've heard.
But at the same time, there is something to be said about, I mean, yes, we can waive a lot of that. I probably have a shortcoming in doing that. Like, I think some of the guys that have played in my Delta Green games have joked about me giving them like long leashes. Like, I don't stop. I don't cut the scene. They just go until it's done and they keep going and going and going. And I let them, they would say I let them hang themselves. But at the same time, that's not always the best way to do it. So going to your point, you're on your way. Does it make sense that they went to the library, did their research, and then travel back to wherever the other half of the party is to be there to take place in the fun? In other words, is the ride still going?
Yeah.
Right.
Or is it, and there's oftentimes I find out that I'm going to, you're on your way there. There's no logical reason why you go from the library to go check on Steve, who happens to be in the graveyard. You wouldn't do that because there's 8 of you or 5 of you, and you're all in potentially interesting places. But suddenly everyone just got a weird psychic vibe to go check on Steve. You know, like that's weird.
Yes.
No one called Steve. No
Right,
one texted anybody.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing happened, but you just heard.
Yeah.
So kind of hand wave that.
It's Steve's got to be having more fun than I am right now at the library.
And
so
all four of the other players think that the fifth guy's having a good time. Really. The other thing I found is that, and maybe this is me, and you can tell me if you've seen this too, is that an online game, I have less of that. Because whenever I've run online games, because of the nature of an online conversation, at least for me anyway, there's less stepping on each other's voices back and forth. It's your turn, your turn, your turn, your turn, your turn. When I run a game, a lot of times the online stuff, if 2 people, 3 people start talking at once,
it's
online overloads me. It overloads everybody else. Whoa, 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 easy, easy. I can't hear anybody. But if I'm in a gaming group in a room and 3 people talk at once, in person, I parse it. I'm like, okay, hang on. Yes, no, maybe. Right. You know, and I can talk, but for whatever reason online, my old brain goes, and I flip out. And I see most people I've played with. So I don't know if that would if that carries for everybody else, but I have found this to be a more in-person thing. And the other thing I have found is that it's not fair, or at least to me, I feel bad if I make Sean sit with his boring decision. Like, too bad you chose to talk to librarian, and librarian was going to drone on for an hour and a half and tell you nothing. Right. And make you sit there while quote unquote everyone else is having fun. It feels like a punishment. Right? You made a bad decision. Can we just wrap up the bad decision? Yeah. An hour and a half goes by. You realize this librarian doesn't know shit. They're just pontificating on, time-space theories. Like, wow. Okay, I'm out. I wasted an hour and a half. I don't make you sit there for an hour and a half, right? To punish you, but allow you to move on, which is why I think I tend to hand wave I'm going to go check on Steve, right? Yeah, fine. Steve's having the most fun. Everybody to Steve. Let's go. Oh, no, it's Jane. Off we go. Let's go see what she's got going, or Lily's got something. Let's go see what she's up to. Everybody's kind of runs in that direction. I'm normally fine with it, but I think it, for whatever reason, it was really, I thought there was plenty of stuff going on. This is why it kind of baffled me in the Ravenloft game I'm like, there was a lot of cool shit. Everyone was like, oh my God, this is creepy. Oh, wow, this is kind of funky. Oh, fuck, there's this. Oh God, geez. Oh God, that's gross. Blah, 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 blah. Horror. And then there's one thing occurred. Everybody's like, I want in on that too. And I wonder if part of it for me was that it was all group. And then the first real split. They haven't split up. They haven't had any separate scenes really. The last time they had any separate scenes were, well, I'm going to wander through town, talk to the blacksmith, talk to this person. And those were very, just snap, in, out, done. There was no real encounter separately at all until this point. And the first one was fun. I had a really good time with it. And so were Alpha and Lenny. And I wonder if that was, it's kind of like, oh, I'm used to being involved in everything. And suddenly I wasn't involved. So that could have been like a little gamer psychology as to like, well, I was there. Well, how come I'm not there this time? It's clearly happening near the camp. We are all here. Why can't I wake up? And we all try to logic our way into why I'm there. Why did I go to the graveyard? Well, that's where Steve is, and Steve's my best friend. You hate Steve. No. It says right here, best friend. I'm going to see Steve and Lily because they're doing,
You should
so it could be a number of reasons why it happened, but I'm trying to figure out. I want to have decent ways to deal with it when it happens, and not be
dude.
And not just do the shut up, you're not there.
You should run a game with those guys, and no matter what direction they go is absolutely boring as crap. And then the other half, whatever they do, is the most exciting. I think that would be hilarious. I think that would be, dude. That would be. I ran a Cthulhu game for these guys once, ages back. Yeah.
And they all chose to do the dumbest shit. And insofar as there was nothing, they like followed every red herring all like one evening. Like, all right, we're gonna go through a list. Let's check off this. Let's check Tim. Let's check Julie. Let's check this thing. And someone go to their library. All of them were bad. As far as there's nothing. And they were convinced there had to be something. There's no way all 6 of us could have chosen something stupid. And nope, no, you all chose something horribly stupid. It was really boring for them. They were very, very frustrated. And then the group gets back together at their little hideout type of thing, and they're all hanging out, and oh, Jesus Christ. And Alpha goes, well, at least we know all of that has nothing to do with what the fuck is going on. He goes, it hurt, but it's done. Now we don't have to worry about it. Just cross it off the list type of thing.
It reminds me of like an episode where a guy is new to a group or something, or person's new to a group, and that starts to occur, and they notice the pattern, and then they try to broach it with the GM, and the GM is totally clueless. Like, I don't really. I mean, that's weird.
Am I doing that?
Well, maybe it's just you. Maybe you're not taking the initiative to maybe go in the right direction. I don't know. It's just strange. You're like, then it goes to the next, like 3 sessions later, and then it's still occurring.
Exactly the same.
The person rage quits or something.
That's funny. So I think what the other piece I wanted to bring up on it was, I think sometimes spotlight theft. So not only like in this case, it was like, hey, that's where the fun is.
They stole it.
Yeah, they steal it. Or sometimes when they want to hog it or hang on to it. I think sometimes there's asshole reasons, right? I'm a jerk. I don't want anybody else to have fun. I'm only here to chew all the scenery all the time, right? I'm a Hammer horror film guy. I'm going to just gnaw the hell out of this.
I'm here to win. I'm going to win.
I'm here to win.
I'm going to win.
For whatever reason, that's
these
the win,
Joker.
right?
Hey, because these Jokers.
No, they ain't got it.
No,
got it.
they're. No.
I think the other thing that I kind of, one of my post thinking about the game section was, I'm like, well, if I want to put like the silver lining on the thing, I'm like, I could have done better. But the fact is, that was fun. It was so fun. My little encounter, the thing with the little goblin critter, was so entertaining. Everybody wanted to be part of it. That's cool. That means I designed a really cool encounter, and we played it well, and it was a lot of fun. So the other thing to take away from that for me is that this group right now in this setting with these characters, they like this circle. They like this type of activity. They enjoyed this thing. I can lean into that more. I can bring the little goblin creature back if I want to, or have similar encounters because they thought that was entertaining. So if I do it again, everyone at the table enjoyed it. So I'm like, oh, I could have a Nick encounter, Zave, Alpha, Beta, Lenny, I could split them all up or in different pockets. If they each get a taste of it, I'm like, oh, that'd be cool because they all like that sort of thing. Oh, they all had fun. What's that? Oh, a little sugar, a little spice being dished out there. Yeah. And I think, I think that's kind of, that's fun when you're looking at a campaign because I've told you many times, I've played with these guys for a very, very long time. But one of the things I like about it though, is that we're trying different stuff. Like, hey, everyone's trying to play different characters over the last few years. Like, look, I played this a lot. I want to play this. Nick has made a character that he hasn't played before. He's playing an assassin, an evil character. He hasn't done that ever. And he's like, look, I want to do something that is a little more selfish, blah, blah, blah. And Zave's like, I don't want to be a cleric. I want to be just a meathead. I want to do something different, like I used to ages back. So everybody's pulling out these kind of this different stuff, if you will. And I think the as they're trying different things, and then I want to try different stuff, to see, does this type of encounter work? Or I have an idea. Let's see if it flies. So I think a good sign from a spotlight stealing type of perspective can be like, hey, that worked. Everybody loved it. Maybe I could have implemented it slightly better. Maybe not in the camp. Maybe when people were separated, or I could have, split it up a little bit different. But the idea is sound. They all loved it. So that's a good sign. And sometimes if you find something like that, I've learned, if I looking back on it, that sometimes you got that player or two players, they're very quiet, a little more passive. But if you find that is the thing, whatever you just did was the thing that they got excited about, suddenly they all want to go to the graveyard and see what Steve and Julie were doing. Holy crap. They're into that. even if all that is they want to rush to wherever the action is, right? And maybe that's their thing. They don't know how to start the action. They don't want to be the focus of the action, and they're not really trying to steal the spotlight. They just want to get in on it, right? They just want the spotlight widened so that they could play as well because they want to have some fun. And I think a cool piece there for me is to, how do I then make it so that it's more logical in story, so that these characters want to go see Steve and Julie in the graveyard. And the reason they do is because they found a clue that they know Steve and Julie absolutely need. Oh my God, the graveyard's haunted. I just confirmed it. I got to go. Well, if you do that, then now is a logic. You've connected that chain of reasoning, and now they're going to it. And they feel awesome because they're helping each other out, and they're not stealing the scene. They're a supporting character in the scene. And I think sometimes when I've seen this happen before, and it could be that they're not trying to steal the entire spotlight. They just want a sliver of it. They just want to be a really cool supporting actor, actress to step in and help the other people who are having the big scene, if that makes sense. Yeah. You're nodding at me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that totally makes sense. Trying to give them something to grab onto in the scene that's not interesting, if you will.
Well, it's, I mean, in like your Delta Green game,
Yeah.
If I do go and I talk to the beat cop, and I go talk to that
Right.
person, and she's basically has nothing. You know, the scenario states this person knows fuck all nothing.
Right.
Right. Black and white. You don't have to buy that. You know, if they accidentally went to go talk to I know fuck all nothing person, you're like, well, she should be over there. That person could then get that cop could go, hang on, the radio on the radio on their chest, the radio in the car goes off, and they hear something at the graveyard.
Right.
And then the other player goes, holy shit, it's this, and this. And that they've got a reason to go. You know, you can use that to kind of drag people in.
I like to think that player characters are always wearing body cams that live stream
to each other,
video and audio in real time. And then it's just a matter of that. And everything is done by transporter speed, so they could just appear in the next scene without any time lapse. But going to the time thing, I mean, you could easily just say, look, you're going to go to the library and nothing. You're there for 2 hours or 30 minutes.
30 seconds, whatever.
Nothing's there. Phone rings and they want you out at the graveyard. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird because it's at times you can just kind of, hey, and then it's not a big deal in the game. A lot of players won't care. Like, okay, now we're all together and we can all have fun in this crime scene and see everything.
Yeah, whatever. Yep.
But at the same time, like, man, you know, you went an hour in the opposite direction. Like in Delta Green, not to pound that setting to death, but dude, there's times when you can fly across the country to a different state.
Wow. You could be in a different country. I could be like, look, I'm going to go from, you know, I'm in northern Minnesota. I'm going to go up to Canada and I'm going to check out the thing I heard about and I'll be back tomorrow.
Right.
And there's literally no way, because you're not in Chicago.
Right.
Or Milwaukee or New York or whatever. And you can kind of poo-poo the fact that it's a son of a bitch to get 3 physical miles in that town or whatever it is. And they're literally on the other end of the country, continent, on a boat halfway from between here to Australia. You're like, wow.
Yeah. You're talking about splitting the party further than a 30-foot corridor.
Yeah. So one of the things for me, I like that, because one of the things that I try to do when I see people in the groups I've run over the years trying to do that is I warn them. I do kind of break the wall a little bit and say, now remember, when you go, you're completely out of pocket. You can't come back.
You're not going to have any fun if you go that route.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I just warn the player, like, look, just so you know, you told me Lily wants to go to Alaska to check out this potential clue you all found. Great. She's going to Alaska. However, Eileen is leading the rest of the group to go talk to, this other person in Chicago.
Fun zone.
Yeah.
Just following the sign that says fun zone this
fun
way.
Zone. Yeah. And sometimes the player's like, nope, I'm fine. That's what my character would do. Lily's going to Alaska. I don't care if it's a waste of time. Okay, cool. And I've had players like willingly do that. We're like, I'm playing my character, and my character would do this thing. And I know that might sacrifice my fun, but I will be okay watching Eileen and the rest of the players have fun because I'm doing what I think my character would do. I sometimes I have to say I don't understand that, but I also understand it, I guess, in the same way that, like, look, if that's okay for you, go do that thing.
Well, Brett, you need to take up smoking, because if you smoked, you just go outside and burn a couple. And then by the time you do that, you're back and fun zone's done. And
fun zone's done. Yeah.
Smokers, man, they get it. Like, they're just like,
totally.
Oh, this would
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Like, I'm going to go to Canada. I know there's nothing up there, but it'll give me a break to go burn one.
I do have a couple of guys in my group who smoke. So
I know you
they'll
do.
be like, okay, well, you're doing this. I'm going to go smoke. So they're like, all right, they go leave. I'm like, good for you.
And they come back and they go, what'd I miss?
Yeah, exactly. Very much. Smelling like nicotine.
Yes.
Yeah. What'd I miss? Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you missed.
Yeah. Oh, you missed it. They came across the freaking, homicide scene. It's nuts, dude.
I think though, but to go to the spotlight hogging, we say it as oh my God, this person's a spotlight hog. They're dicks because they won't let anybody else have fun, right? They're just holding it and they won't let it go. And I think sometimes there's encroachment was what I think maybe we could call it spotlight encroaching, or I'm trying to get in on the action because that's where the fun is. So I think there is, depending on the game, sometimes it's easier to get them to the fun. Right. If you're in a dungeon and you've fallen through a pit trap, which is a weird chute that sends you out to the wrong end of the dungeon, and the rest of the group is going, fuck, where'd Jim go? And they can't fucking find it. It's too bad, in a way, quote unquote, too bad. You can't just reasonably get over there like you would say from this side of Madison, that side. You can't just pick up the phone and go, hey, come get me, But I think it's I started looking at it like, did the players do something wrong? Maybe they were a little pushy because they all want to get in on the action. They, come on, let Alpha and Lenny have their thing. But on the flip side, I've while I'm noodling out different ways to make sure that I split that up better next time, I really looked at it to say, wow, that was fun. It was so much fun. Everybody wanted to be involved. So from a game master perspective, that's a fucking win, man. That you designed something that was that good that everybody wanted to play with. Because it was all fun combats and stuff up until that point.
I still think it would be hilarious. Like an actual play where if you like, hey, I just want to record this session for prosperity and just going to set up my phone here and hit record. And every time they go, Nick and Zave do something, it's always boring as shit. And no matter how mundane a task Lenny wants to pursue, it's the most exciting
thing in the world.
The rule, like evidence uncovering, and
every NPC has a voice and an action. Otherwise, it's like reading box text. It's just boring.
It's so hilarious.
The hell, man!
And then, better yet, if they show up, everything turns boring. All right, so that's everything. You got everything. You guys are there. Lenny, you got all the clues and everything. So so what do you guys want to do now?
It's like Lenny goes, it's action. The other guy show up, cut.
Yeah. You wiped them all out. Single-handedly, Jason Bourne, all of them. And
let's coffee and donuts now.
Reinforcements are there. You guys show up, like you just see the last guy fall, boom, right onto the ground. So what do you want to do now?
Last Nazi's dead. Sorry. Everybody else is Indiana Jones. You're just they said inadvertently they made NPCs, right?
I would never do that, by the way, to any of my players.
God, that would be funny as hell. It would actually make for an interesting curse, like the curse of boredom for your character. Like, sorry, you'll never be really there. Or whatever.
Yeah, I think that would be hilarious. I would love to do that to Jeff.
Oh, drive him bananas.
Captain Kirk, Jedi, Indiana Jones. Every time he enters a scene is like nothing's happening.
Yeah. Shows up with 82 batarangs, a lightsaber. He's just ready to roll.
Yeah.
Tips his fedora back, and there's nothing
Nope,
going on.
nothing to do.
All the Nazis are dead. All this other stuff's gone.
They
I think
all,
if nothing else, one of the things I thought was for me, kind of a closing thought on that topic, Sean, was interesting that I've played with these guys for over 30 years,
yeah.
you know, off and on or constantly. And we've always played together, and it's still weird behavior. Something still pops up because people are people, right? And I know these guys really well. These are like, I know you really well. If I was playing with you, you know, and it, every once in a while, something happens. You're like, what the fuck is Brett doing? Why is he doing that? You know? And sometimes it's like, wow, this guy. I remember playing one time with my friends down here, and Alpha and I were standing outside after the game. And he goes, "You okay?" I go, "I had a fucked up bad day at work, dude." He goes, "Yeah, I could tell something was off." I'm like, really? He goes, "Yeah, it's pretty obvious. You're not really, you weren't a lot of fun tonight." I'm like, "Oh, well, shit. You know, I was just a player, but he was running the game, but I was being a jerk or rude. I didn't even notice it, right? Didn't even think about it. I just knew I was having a bad day at work, and I went to the game and apparently took it out on somebody or did something stupid, you know." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Well, I didn't know I did that." It's interesting because even after a very long-term group like mine, is there's still periodically like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, the advantage I have is I can pull on the side and I can go, "Hey, what the fuck is wrong with you? What's going on? Are you okay? What's wrong, man?" Because I've known these guys for a long time. But even so, it's interesting. You can play with somebody, a long group, or you know Jeff for a very long time. Everything can be going really well. And you think you've got this guy's number, man. Eileen and me, we've played forever. I got it. I know how to make her character dance and do this, and she knows how to play with my style. It's all good. It's all good. Nothing we could ever do would ever be, oh my God, what just happened? Because there's so many different inputs and outputs. So I think it's funny in a way, because a lot of advice or ideas, you know, we have or have talked about and other people say is it feels like it's almost geared towards a new group, or, hey, I've had this new problem. And if nothing else, I'm here to tell you that it still happens to old guys in an old man's group, right? It still pops up where somebody does something like, what the fuck? Everybody, you all know better. You know, I'm fair. You know, the group is having, you know, we can split scenes, right? You don't have to. Why did you guys all have to rush over to Alpha and Lenny's fun? Why didn't you just let them have fun for 5 fucking minutes? Why did you have to act like 2-year-olds? Right? It's just weird, but it happens. It happens. And I think those different ideas and those tools and things that you and I talked about previously, you know, I still try to figure that stuff out and improve and find different ways to solve these problems because they're still popping up.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that you can play with people for, you know, a long time and still like, we are running into this issue. Like we just met each other and it's our second session ever, or just started this game. Like we just started in the hobby and, hey, how do you kick out somebody out of your group that doesn't mesh? Like,
how long have they been there? 35 years. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
You should have figured that out a while ago.
I just walked away. Yeah. That's too funny.
Anyway, man, nothing too heavy. I just, if nothing else, I hadn't seen you in a while. I wanted to check in on you.
Yeah,
Make sure you're doing okay.
For sure. Likewise. Yeah, I guess in the chat down below, if you watch this, it'd be interesting if you comment on whether you are Spotlight person or if you're a game master and how you've handled Spotlight.
The other thing that's interesting is whether or not you, player or game master, have different Spotlight issues depending on the style of game or game you're playing. Right. So let's say it's a Delta Green style Call of Cthulhu versus Forbidden Lands versus D&D versus Dungeon Crawl Classics or whatever you're playing. Have you noticed sometimes even within the same group that a certain game, for whatever reason, seems to elicit a different type of behavior?
Yeah, I would for sure. Yes, I would say definitely dependent on what the game is. Because I think if you're in a game where you're dependent heavily upon the other participants to accomplish what you need to do. Like,
Yeah.
Class games, like when you're playing specific classes, maybe class-less games, but then you start getting into archetypes or even skill sets that, like, I'm really good at blowing stuff up, so therefore I'm the blower stuff for upper guy. But I do agree. Like, I think the ones that probably don't suffer as much are the ones where the parties never split because you're there. It's only when, well, sometimes it is even in the fantasy. Like, we're searching a room. 10 by 10, not very big. The one person goes over to the bed and finds the one thing, and everybody knows.
But it descends on the bed.
Yes. The thief that comes across the little jewel that they want to slip into their pocket. I want to see if I noticed that little thieving bastard.
I think the other, this just hit me when you said that, is the other piece of this is that understanding how and why people are doing it, and how you can, the different things you could try to solve it, to me also comes into play when if you're running a, we have no background. My name is Fightor from Fightor Land. My family was killed by orcs. I'm here to kill orcs, and you're killing monsters, taking their stuff, grind. If you're doing that and you're having fun, good for you. Great. I've played those games. I have a good time. But if you're trying to run a game or playing a game where Sean's character's backstory matters, Eileen's backstory matters, Tim's matters, Roger's matters, it all matters. At some point, you want to have that encounter in Avalon where Chris's character gets to have an aside with an NPC because it's helping him to develop his character and his backstory and so forth, which is fun for some players and game masters. And you're doing that. That's, even though most of the time the group is together, sometimes there's going to be a little split while you work on those individual components. They have individual goals, needs, and things you're trying to help them out with. If nothing else, for me as a player, one of the things that thinking about this does is when I see that happening, when I see Chris or Sean or someone who's game mastering for me shift the spotlight away from me to somebody else, I do my best to shut the fuck up and let them have their time, which is really hard for me.
Yeah, just go and burn
Sean.
one. That's why you got to start smoking.
That's why I got to start smoking. Yeah. Start smoking. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that you've got to, it's a piece where if you realize, oh shit, I might be the problem. First rule is fuck, that's me. Second is, okay, I need to stop doing that, or encourage people, to take their time or whatever the case is. But I think there are very few, sounds crass, but if you're playing like a board game style where it crunch, playing Descent or something where you just kind of mosey through. If you're playing with a nuanced character and you want to develop that character, you're going to need probably some time to have your little spotlight. And we as players and as game masters, we need to understand, like, hey, make sure this person has the time they need and don't let other people encroach on it just because they're bored or just because they always want to be where the action is. Sometimes we got to say, nope, you're not there.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, it'll take you half hour to get there. Hold on. And let Steve and Julie have their encounter in the graveyard and you show up just at the end of it or whatever. So anyway, that's all I got, man. You good?
I'm good.
I let you be. I need coffee now.
You gonna take off?
I think I am. You cool with that?
I'm totally cool with that. You've
All
been
right,
on for a good hour. That's what Brett's good. Like it's in the contract. Hour.
It's in the contract.
Anything over
Hours
that?
Only. It's double time after
it's
that.
Totally double time. Double credit. Double credits.
Double credits.
Yeah. Chris says, as a player, you can do a few things. Learn to be a good audience member. To your point, Brett, like go and smoke a cigarette, and see if it's okay to play other NPCs in that scene from the GM's point of view, which is good. But I know I would have player characters screw it all up, so I don't give them that latitude.
I've had that happen, and I've had awesome results, and I've also had horrible results.
You're screwing up my game. The NPC would have never said that. Now I gotta.
Well, however, one of the things I learned when I had the horrible result is Brett, like a dumbass, gave the player the ability to play an NPC that was way too key. I had this, I let him play the wrong NPC, and that, which is fine. Like, oh, you know what? You can play the Lich King. Now, why did you let him do that? But you can, as Chris is saying, you could edit the scene.
Sure.
You could say, oh, actually, no, and this, that, and the other thing. And it's all good. And I think one of the key parts to what Chris is saying there is that it takes a little practice, and don't be afraid to try it. And the reason I say, like, hey, pick the right NPC is what I like to do is I start small with it. Like, sure, you could be the beat cop, and I've done it before. Lenny's like, can I be the cop? You could be the cop. Or I say, nope, not this time. Okay. And he's fine because he wants to be in on the action, but he wants to be in on it, but not kind of annoying and blah, blah, so you can always say no, like Chris says, or, you can anyway. So it is an option, and it is pretty cool. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm being facetious. Of course, it's a good option, but there is a weird, like, okay, if I'm going to play the cop, how much info do I know? Do I not know enough info? What do I convey? And sometimes that's like another side discussion, which is fine because then you got the whole party involved, or the group, I guess. But yeah, it's fun. That's yay RPGs and game mastering.
Well, the coolest parts about this hobby is that all of these weird things that we're talking, even not that this is horribly weird, but like, oh, I could give this to the player. I could do this. I could do this. So much can depend on what the group is comfortable with, who wants to do a thing, how comfortable you are as a game master, and you practice, you try. It's this wonderful, bizarre-ass social experiment that we're doing together all the time, telling this wonderful, kick-ass, literally one-of-a-kind joint story. Your version of Impossible Landscapes is going to be way different than mine or anybody else.
For sure.
And there's literally nothing wrong with that. It is one of the coolest fucking things about this hobby. That the fun people are having in your game right now in Impossible Landscapes with Sean running it is fun that no one else can ever have. Literally, I don't believe it will never be exactly duplicated. Could be close, right? Could be similar, but it's not the same.
It's very hilarious as I download Delta Green Impossible Landscapes actual plays just to kind of understand what they're doing and how they're running it and things of that nature. And it's funny because you start at the beginning, and I'm like, yep, here it goes. Okay. And then it's like the same for like the first 3 episodes. And then it's like, oh, now is because it.
Oh, look, divergent.
Yes. The game has to start, that's, any published adventure. I think that's the thing. Like if you were to listen to Masks on Night Roulette, the top actual plays, it's always going to start. Either if you don't play the prelude, it's going to start in New York, and it's
either Jackson Elias is dead or you're in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, it's like, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it's funny.
Well, that's a good hook, though.
It is.
I mean, that's to me, those are signs of a good hook. For if the published adventure is solid and so forth, it starts a certain way and then it diverges. And if it's a good adventure, good written one, it can diverge beautifully. And like I said, that's when we started at the same place, but the folks with you or the folks with me or somebody else, they're having a lot of fun. No doubt they're having fun, but it is this wonderful, one-of-a-kind fun.
Right.
It cannot be repeated.
Right.
And it's one of the things that hooks me on this hobby, man. It really does.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to go get coffee.
All right. Thanks, Brett. I give a round of applause to Mr. Brett Bloczynski.
Oh, thank you, man.
You could find him on Twitter and our Discord if you are so inclined. And go buy Streets of Avalon. The creator behind the Streets of Avalon RPG setting. Built for 5e and maybe a new product coming up down the road with help from Chris S in the chat and Encoded Designs. So always good to see my buddy Brett. Stop by, Brett. So yeah. Not to miss anybody that was talking. Orcus Dorcas says, I don't think I've had many spotlight issues with the adults I game with, but when I run games for teens, it's a constant juggling act trying to get them to share the spotlight at times. I could see that. I could see that being interesting, and probably even younger, like younger kids in playing any game with role-playing game. Like you try to tone it down to getting kids in the hobby. They're always about the excitement, I'm sure, you know. Chris mentions he wants to play the game too, and it can only really help the GM if they're not comfortable playing 2 NPCs at the same time. And then he says, I know a few GMs that don't enjoy talking to themselves as multiple characters. That's a good point, for sure. The shared experience. Craig, good to see Craig. Thanks for stopping by, Craig. Somebody, your agent must have tapped you, said we were going to be live today with Brett. I'm glad, appreciate it. Brett brings them in. Nubis says, I have one problematic player when it comes to spotlight sharing. Whenever a player gets a scene, she always wants to jump in and I touch the painting too. I have that skill as well. It's hard to tackle. Yeah, for sure. It's a weird balance. They just want to have fun. They want to be involved. You can't fault them necessarily. That's why I think as soon as they run into a boring situation, you have to cut back to get them into a more exciting situation. Anyways, good to see you. Hoos, I saw some of you folks show up. Phil, good to see you. This is good to hear. And see you, Brett. Love these Saturdays. Yeah. Man, if you want to talk in every scene, then GM. Right. Yeah. I'll play a solo adventure, I guess. Good times, good times. Good times catching up with the Brettster. All right. Spotlighting. Always fun. Can happen new group or one that you've been playing with for 20, 30 years. It happens. It's the people. It's the people. That's why. People are different widgets. Chris D. Look at this guy. Professor Egghead is alive and well and in the chat. How do you do this so early? That's the thing, Chris. I get to show up early because I know like nothing's happening in my house. My phone's not going to ring. Hopefully dogs aren't going to bark, which is probably the thing that's going to come up. So I just get up early, man. Got plenty of time to sleep when I'm dead. Good to see you, man. Hope our things are well. Hofzinser's Corner. What game have you not run that you hope to run this year? That is not the question. Are you asking that question? No. Craig, for those that showed up late, if you want to participate in the question of the question du jour is if you yourself, Craig, Phil, whoever, were going to be in a role-playing game setting, probably, RPG title, what would it be? Like you transpose yourself. Where would you want to be? Not a lot of fans of Cult, Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu. Fantasy's not coming in very, very high on the list. Chris S. Between Gaming NBS and Misdirect Mark Productions, I think there's like 8 or 9 episodes on the subject of Spotlight. Oh, for sure. For sure. Oh, Craig says Last Airbender. Easy. You know, I am not Airbender familiar. Phil says Forgotten Realms. So Phil, you would be a D&D adventurer. I didn't know you were a big Forgotten Realms guy. Maybe Phil is now that he's watched the movie. He's a convert. I think that's what it is. All right, let's get into something else. Like, I don't know, what's going on this week? Let me see. The Last Airbender, but with no bending ability. Says Gabe Dibbing. Oh. Hey, Mr. Chipper, Gabe. Thanks, buddy. Chris D. Star Wars, but I can't afford the Galactic Star Cruiser at Disney for $4. Well, you wouldn't have to if you lived in the Star Wars universe. That was mine, Chris. Star Wars. A lot of people, there's a pretty decent Star Trek, which I think I could see. Star Trek. Nice and safe, kind of. Hoff says we need stinger music before the news segment. Oh, dude, this guy. Third Floor Wars. I mean, if you want to see how this format is done, well, then you check out Third Floor Wars. If you know, your expectations aren't like, I'm going to go and see a blockbuster movie, well, you know, you come here like, hey, B-film right here, you know, low budget. This is what you get, Craig. This guy. Roger says Traveler. Oh, okay. Traveler would be an interesting one. Not to be mistaken for like Mothership or Alien or Death in Space. Phil says, huge Realms guy. Had the pleasure of meeting Ed and have the 3E campaign book signed. I've homebrewed a number of games using that setting. Yeah, because probably Ed's not far from you, is he? Is he in Ontario? I don't even know. He's up in there in the Canada. Who says you're funny to Roger because he picked Traveler? Put a 5-second clip on Stream Deck. Yes, I would, but I don't typically have a lot of guests here. We'll see. I'll see about amping it up a little bit. All right. Let's get, the swoosh, the transition. So many things to think of. All right. Well, there's an ad for you. Let me see. Let's go to Ian World's stuff. Let's just cut to the chase, shall we? What is the news for the week? Some of this here. Here we go. Thanks everybody at Ian World, as well as the other sources I come across that do a fine job of coming up with what's going on in the hobby. Let's see. So new this week. Although I think I even touched on this last week because Pibo Publishing. I'm Baba Wawa. Anyways, it's so hilarious because you have that transition, but I don't have the sound effects for it. But if I did, every time I did it, it would be whoosh, whoosh. Todd says a lot of times he shows up dressed as Elminster, which is sweet. Paizo Publishing and Azor Law published feedback draft of the Open RPG Creative License, our ORC. Now, last week, Saturday, because I think this was news Friday, I don't know if this is new, because I think I just checked it out last week, Saturday, literally like probably 12 hours, 24 hours after it dropped. But if you're interested in the draft, which is always interesting when people say, hey, we're looking for your feedback. Here's your draft. How much? And of course, it doesn't go to the source. It goes to another article that talks about it. Great. I think I mentioned it. The 21st is the deadline for feedback. The license is longer than the OGL, but mostly the same thing. When you release a document under the ORC license, you can designate a portion of the content as a product identity that is not open content, but the rest of the document will be free to use for anyone under the ORC license, which makes total sense. Like that's how they're going to get everybody on board. Right? Like that's the deal. Here, you can use this open license. And then, by the way, here's kind of the things that aren't involved in it. Which is pretty standard, I would imagine. Ty Prunty, good to see you, Ty. Ty says, Star Wars, Marvel, Dresden Files. Why pick one? Well, Ty, because you can only exist in one place. Sometimes. Most of the time. That's why. Nubis, Kadoosh. Maybe I'll use that. Kadoosh. Every time as a transition. There's your gimmick, Sean. Reading RPG news as SNL characters. Like Chevy Chase. Or any of them, for that matter. Like Stefan would be the best. Yes. Ooh. ORC. What are we talking about this week? Well, this RPG has I don't know. Rust oblins. What are rust oblins? Rust oblins is when you take a rust monster and have sex with a goblin. And the latest RPG title is Tales of the Valiant. All right, we went over this one. Cobalt Press announced the title of their new 5e supplement, Tales of the Valiant, aka previously known as Project Black Flag. The Kickstarter, which I think might have been mentioned before or was still up in the air, there's planned for May. So as of this recording, a couple weeks, tentatively. I'm guessing probably a month from now, in the middle of May 2023. With the final books shipping in 2024. Sometime in 2024. Which put the new system in the hands of the players around the same time as Wizards of the Coast 1 D&D update to the 5e rule system, which would be interesting, right? Hey, I got it. I know what we're going to do. We're going to do the ORC. Then we have to get Tales of the Valiant, like, aligned with the release of D&D. Yeah, that's the key, like a few days before it. Is that the way to go for like marketing? Do you do it after the big name? Can't remember how that works in like Coke and Pepsi, and how do they do it? Do you want to be the first one or do you want to be the second one? Do you want to steal the thunder? Should probably take a marketing class. All right. So my prediction, August. Gen Con. What's in August? Well, Gen Con, of course, right? I don't know. Are they still releasing stuff always around the Gen Con timeframe? Like that used to be the deal. I don't know if it is anymore. Lord of the Rings, 5e, Free League. They're getting a lot of traction on this, I think. Free League announced the release date for Lord of the Rings, their 5th edition take on Middle-earth setting, 236-page hardcover, expected May 9th. A lot of us aren't playing, I should say some of us in the chat aren't playing 5th edition, but is anybody getting this and running it for 5th? Do you plan on it? I only ask because it's 5th edition, 2, it's Lord of the Rings, 3, it's getting a little bit of marketing hype. Free League posted a trailer for the game featuring Elijah Wood. Hello. That's Frodo. Frodo is back in this. Featuring Elijah Wood, Deborah Ann Woll. Does she pronounce it with a V or a W? Woll, Reggie Watts, and others. They're doing like this big shindig because of the 20th anniversary of Return of the King. So there, if you don't feel old, you're welcome. Ty says, mine kind of messed up, especially low. I would be a alpha werewolf. Okay. A Jedi in Star Wars, Wolverine in Marvel. Oh, I see how you roll, Ty. Todd says, everyone's trying to go back to big Gen Con releases now that there's a stability in conventions. Well, some stability, yeah. Yeah. Star Trek Adventures. You guys watching this? Lower Decks? I have not. I always see the ads because I'm a Paramount guy, subscriber, but they said that like Star Trek Lower Decks is getting their own game. I don't know if it's their own game. It's just a campaign supplement for the existing Star Trek Adventures game. 240-page hardcover source book. It's going to be bigger than the Lord of the Rings for 5e. Anyways, the big one won't be out until Q3 2023. Modiphius is taking Star Trek Adventures below the command crew with a full line of products based on Lower Decks. The big one won't be out until Q3 2023, but Modiphius is releasing a 240-page hardcover source book, Star Trek Lower Decks Campaign Guide. Man, Modifius is riding that IP, right? Like, holy cow. I think like every month they're coming out with a Star Trek thing. Where is Picard's Star Trek adventure? Where indeed? Don't put any spoilers out there, Ty. Chris says I'm not even a huge Star Trek fan and I love that cartoon. Oh, really? Oh, okay, interesting. Interesting. Let's see. Fallout, the role-playing game. Characters in Fallout. Not done with Modifius yet, as they released more information about the upcoming Winter of Adam adventure book for Fallout, the role-playing game. I don't see this get a lot of traction. Where are the Fallout fans? Because I heard they're pretty rabid. Maybe they're just not big fans of tabletop. I don't know. I know Mirko was playing it for a while. So Winter of Adam is scheduled for release in Q2 2023. Not too far off then. Historia, is that what it says? Is that what that says in that fancy font? Yeah, Historia, dark fantasy renaissance setting for 5th edition. A final bit of Modifius news is they announced a deal to distribute games from the Italian company Mana Project Studio. So the Italian graphic design studio, role-playing games publisher, games creator, and crowdfunding consultant through their own hugely successful Kickstarters. They have published a fantastic range of role-playing games, which Modifius is excited to bring to a wider audience through our Via Modifius program and direct-to-retail sales in the UK and Europe. 2 titles announced. One is Historia. That's this cover right here. And then is a dark fantasy renaissance setting for 5e, anthropomorphic animals, 17 new player races, 10 new renaissance-themed classes. And then the second title is Not the End, a diceless RPG using an original system called Hexsys. Like hexagon system that uses a series of hexagons linked via keywords. The core rulebook includes all the rules for character creation and all the rules to play in a variety of different settings and genre. The launch will include the Not the End core book, Not the End stories, and Not the End lesson card deck. Sorry, now I should put the and in there. And Not the End token set. Interesting. Niceless RPG. Whoa. I don't know about that. Additionally, Mana Project Studio will release through Modifius the 5e and OSR supplement 7 Sinners and other forthcoming games that have yet to be announced. The first of these products will be available on Modifius' web store. So this is how Freely kind of got kicked off, right? They did a lot of stuff through Modifius. So who knows? You know, kudos for Modifius for teaming up and trying to help out another shop. All right, then. Let's see. What else? No, let's go over here. Let's go over here. Wow, must have been paging through these before I was trying to do prep before you guys came on. Y'all hit that like button and do Sean a solid. Thanks, Chris. You're awesome. Please do. Or hit the thumbs down. Doesn't matter. Like, YouTube loves it. Ty, I'm trying to stay away from 5e stuff just so you can give me a like. Just you, Ty. That would mean the world to me, man. Here you go. Here you go, Ty. ICRPG rocks. There you go. What do you say? Michael Holland. No dice. I'm out. I love my plastic polyhedrals. Well, that's right, for sure. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right. That is weird. I think my overlay's off. Anyways, print news. I got to hit enter. So you guys have the link. That probably helps. There you go. Direct pandering. That's right. The best example of pandering, just listen to the song by Bo Burnham. It's a country song that he wrote. It's awesome. We could hit thumbs down the way Gaming and BS asked for 1-star reviews. Make this the best, worst rated show on the tubes. I don't know. I don't know on YouTube if that is the wisest thing, because I know Apple does not care about reviews. I think some other podcast platforms do. If they probably look at Apple's, it could probably hurt us on a different platform, but who knows? Anyways. Dungeon Crawl Classics print news, Dying Earth. Dying Earth. So you get Animal Adventures for D&D 5th edition, gets a new setting in the faraway sea, and new miniatures, Lamentations, Prince of the Flame Princess, all coming to you. So this one, look at these, all these Dying Earth things. Never read the books. I guess I should, because, well, that's the thing with this and Lankmar. If I don't read Lankmar, or I haven't read Dying Earth, this isn't on my radar. And then it would be like, well, what fantasy RPG player hasn't? Here's all this stuff. Dying Earth box set. I think it's $60. And then the rest of these scenarios are $9.99 each. I will not read all of these to you, but just know that they are out. I saw somebody holding, was it Wayne? Was it somebody got the Dying Earth on the Discord? Maybe it was them, or they got a picture of it. But it's like they already did. Well, they were holding 2 books because it like filled the covers, like in the upper right. That's the core Dying Earth setting book. So of course, I'm like, of course, Goodman Games did multiple covers, of course. And of course, people are having to buy both, because then you can set them right next to each other and it's like the one big print. How do you know that it's Earth, not another different planet? Ty, I don't even know what to tell you, man, because I don't know anything about it. Christian Serrano, you missed Brett, buddy. Faraway, Animal Adventures, The Faraway. Some miniatures. The Faraway Sea, Dogs of the Faraway Sea, Cats of the Faraway Sea, Animals of the Faraway Sea, Time in a Bottle, Raiders of the Lost Coast, all by Steamforged Games. Get them while it's hot. Range anywhere from, looks like $27 to $45 US. Itchy nose. Hardcover book, and obviously some unpainted miniatures. In the PC's paws is a dog-eared map, and they are ready to leave port for swashbuckling adventures in a campaign called The Faraway Sea. These waves surround an ever-changing archipelago. Is that how you say that? Where unique islands come and go with the passing days thanks to mysterious magical forces. Around the Faraway Sea, a strange community has sprung up, the floating city of Flotsam, a haven for adventurers and oddballs of all kinds. Interesting. Okay. Last one, I think. Lamentations of the Flame Princess. James, I haven't been tuned in to what James Raggy and the folks over there are doing. It looks like one of them's got Glenn Seal's name. The Jovian Visitor. Looks like it's got Glenn Seal's name on the title there. The far right. Hardcover rulebook, softcover adventure. Rules of Magic. Player core book on both. Just alternate covers. Is that it? In Jovian Visitor, the cult of the Secundus Deus was founded in Italy 20 years ago to make contact with and pave the way for the widespread worship of a different god. 1 year ago, when the astronomer Giovanni Cani passed away, his former assistant and student Vincenzo Costa was oath-bound to keep his esoteric work safe. He took several tomes and notebooks from Giovanni's Florence villa and secreted them around Florence, but all the books have vanished. Vincenzo prays he can find help to locate them before a visitor comes to call. Interesting. There you go. That's it for print news. Yeah, those are two different covers, same book. All right. Crowdfunding news. You do miss Brett. Oh, that's nice. All right. Crowdfunding news. Here we go. Magical Kitties Noir from Atlas Games. I'm on their email list. I saw this. Magical Kitties Save the Day. Original system, RPG sourcebook. Funded. $5,000 goal. And they're kicking it at 85, close to 85. So... Magical Kitties Save the Day. Offers expansion on the RPG of cats with humans that have human problems only magic cats can correct. This RPG pits magical kitties again, aliens, hyper-intelligent raccoons, and more. The Alexander, what's his last name? From Atlas Games is on Third Floor Wars podcast if you want. He's heading up his, or he talks about his foray into Atlas Games and Magical Kitty Save the Day. Mall Kids 2023 from Matthew Graveland. Mall Kids borrows mechanics from the popular Honey Heist by Grant Howitt. It's an RPG zine, $20. Set in the 90s. Yeah. Would have been better in the 80s. Just saying. Just kidding. It's before malls began to lose their luster. Funded. Oh boy, here we go. Swords and Wizardry, complete and revised. I do like that clean layout. Disclaimer, I have funded this one, in case you guys wanted to know. Core rulebook, $35, shipping and handling. The Annie Award-winning retro clone of OD&D, it is back. Congrats to Matt Finch and the gang at Mythmere Games for going over $100,000. Yay, stretch goals. Look at that. 10,000%. What's up, Kelly? This version of the rules moves away from Wizards of the Coast OGL cover to the Creative Commons release of the rules. They're also working on compatibility license to allow compatible with Swords and Wizardry products. So, if you're playing the odds, it's going to be delivered. It's like they're making some tweaks, but the game's been around for years. And it's gone through a couple of previous iterations. So, at least different covers for sure. Anyway, it's got 1 week to go as of this recording. There you go. All right. Into the Dungeon. Adventure for 5e, Pathfinder 1, and OSR from John R. Davis. £9 for the PDF. It's just short a goal, but they've got 1 week. Whoa, might not fun. We'll see. The city of Grey Gale's sewer system needs you to fix it. Long ago, druids built an ecosystem to balance the waste, creating a world beneath the city. However, their works are breaking down and you're needed to fix it. 75 pages, 125 locations. Man, that's a lot of sewage. Wet Runner. Cyberpunk fishing heist action by Weird Age Games. $30 Australian dollars, I think. Right? AU dollars. For the PDF and POD discount. Cyberpunk meets every fishing side quest from a video game. Inspired by Cyberpunk, Leverage, and the Black Lagoon, you're an elite criminal stealing fish in a globally warmed world. Fish are rare. The rich hoard them, meaning you have to steal an eel and heist a herring. Imagine if Cyberpunk were beachy. That's the bait. Are you hooked? Still has a little ways to go. Good luck with that one. Good luck. Good for them for putting it out there. Guts. Takes guts. Wayfaring Strange. That looks familiar. Tabletop role-playing game about hidden highways, urban legends, and folk magic is in Liminal America by Drowning Moon Studios. An original diceless system. What? The return of diceless. $135. The ash can is pay what you want on drive-thru. So you can check it out before you kick in. Along the hidden highways, life is a highway of North America is a network of supernatural waypoints of travelers. You're a wayfarer traveling these unseen routes, learning more about these powers inspired by American gods, Alice Isn't Dead, and Gravity Falls. This RPG lets you travel our world in a way you'll never be able to in life. I reviewed Wayfaring Strange, Ashcan, in a recent issue of Knights of the Dinner Table. The author of this page, which is to say that I get what the project offers and wholeheartedly recommend it. If the idea of rolling down the hidden byways of America speaks to you, check out this project on BackerKit. Where are they on BackerKit? Shall we see? Oh, they hit their over goal. Almost, well, a little less than twice. 4,500 US. It's at 7,100. Still has 12 days. Here, I'll put the link to this one because it's on BackerKit. Congratulates them to come up with that. Put it out there. Next one. 5th edition. Larzin's Ledger Treasures and Trinkets. Loot Craft Upgrade. $25 PDF. Need a magic item? 400 pages with 300 magic items. That level up with the characters to become more than they were, plus 30 spells, new subclasses, treasure hunts, and more. More! Look at that. Holy cow. 20 grand and it's at $500,000. Wow. Wow. Level up. Ian Publishing, cranking away material for their game, Level Up, Advanced 5e, and D&D 5e. It's an adventure path. 400 pages of adventure. That's a lot. Adventures featuring a gnarly looking dragon, a vampire that looks like the deadliest kind of Hellboy villain, and a fiend that must be defeated to save the town. Adventure levels 3 to 13. Funded. Mythic Space from Lakara Games. It's an original system. Core rulebook, $35 for the PDF and POD. The playtest version and Kickstarter campaign contain AI artwork. The creator states this on the campaign page. The final book will ship with 0 AI-generated images. Do you think this funded? Just with that little blurb. Ooh. I don't know. Taking inspiration from Halo, Mass Effect, and Cowboy Bebop. This project offers an original sci-fi RPG. Campaign page calls the engine a mashup of XCOM and D&D 4E. It's meant to make combat more tactical while taken inspiration from Forged in the Dark narrative options. I bet it did, Chris says. Even though he says in the playtest version it has AI generated art. Controversial! Chris says, here's the thing with 5e. I've run 20 sessions of a campaign, and yesterday was the first time I use a stock D&D monster stat block. Everything else in the game has been homebrewed. Just don't need it. I'm sure other people do, but it's just not that interesting at the moment. Todd says, I've been toying around with a diceless system where you have X number of success types to choose from, but each can only be selected once before the list refreshes. That is interesting. It's kind of like having a list of predetermined roles. Kind of. Not really. What do I know? I'm not a game designer. Why are you listening to me about game design? Christoph, good to see you. Not a fan of these fundraise to print anymore. Delays are atrocious. Yeah, you could always wait, right? Todd says some are full successes where you get to do whatever you want, going back to his system, he says. Others are failing forward. Some are outright failures, but it lets you control the pacing as you want to a point. And that is interesting. It's kind of got an economy. Is this really interesting to move it all? You know, hey, you want to like definitely succeed or not maybe? Todd, he's smart. It did not fund. Chris Sneezak did not. It's got 1 week to go, but they got to have $376 per day to fund. Yeah, I wonder how much the AI art piece played a role in that. I don't know. They're at 5,400, close to 5,500 of a 10 grand goal. They only have a week. Oof, the odds are against them. Never tell them the odds, though. Chris says, I'm with Christoph. Yeah. Anubis, I order books that are already printed and delivery takes 1 to 2 months. Chris says that won't fun. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is that all? Did I have anything else? I better check. I thought there was something else I might have, like, bookmarked. Green screen. Let's see. Nope. You guys are looking at some of my bookmarks that I've gone through. Hollow Streets. I didn't mention that. Surprising that they didn't put that in the news. RPG news. Right? Hollow Streets. Somebody put that in there. I think it was Beer Leaguer, if I'm not mistaken, in our Discord. Hollow Streets is the community creation thing for Shadowrun. Shadowrunners? Any Shadowrunners out there? I don't know if I think there's a link to drive through, but that's probably the guide that you can grab. Community created Shadowrun content. I'm trying to find the actual announcement, but I don't seem to see it. There's one on Reddit. Why would I think it's at the top of the list as like a press release? Why? I don't know. It's like it's made its rounds like an RPG net and things of that nature. But anyways, so I suppose my choice is just to bring up the drive-through RPG because I can't find the aka the press release. Why isn't that opening? Maybe it's What is going on? I think my browser is like not doing well here. Come on, come on. I don't know what to do. Refresh. I'm going to, whatever. Go to drive-through-RPG and put in Hollow Streets for Shadowrun. My browser's taking a memory dump on my monitor. It's ugly. Anyways, that's all I have for print that I know of. I'm sure there's more, and I apologize. I do a ton of prep. I run this stream like I run my RPGs. Fast and loose. Anyways. Todd says there's been a lot of backlash on AI art, so it's interesting to see people demonstrating that with their wallets. Indeed. I don't know if you were here, Todd, when we brought it up at the beginning. Like, we talked about it for 45 minutes, AI art, in the beginning of one of these streams. Like, it took that much time. Probably an hour, close to an hour of just general discussion. Chris says they should have said 13th age instead of 4th edition D&D. Oh, hey-oh. Why the hell is the book 10,000 if they're using AI-generated art? That's only in the playtest. They say that in the final release it's going to be there to pay the artists. Orcus Dorcas Broadband? No, it's memory. Anyways, that's a lot of large AI art downloads. Yeah, for sure. Todd Crapper, what? Gotta go back and listen to that. What was it? I don't remember the controversy other than, I think maybe it was, I think it was just in general, the Twitter sphere and the talk, people going crazy over AI art in RPGs, and you got some camps. So we were talking about it a little bit. It wasn't like in depth. We were just kind of, do we see like the rationale behind it? Artists, they've been getting punched off. They've always been punched and kicked and kept down, and starving artists, right? Like, the struggle is real. And all of a sudden things are going okay, and then AI art comes along. Not that that's gonna, maybe it'll impact some, maybe it won't impact some. And how will you know? I mean, that person doing that product could say, yeah, here's a bunch of artists, none of them exist. Maybe not even credit them. People are going to see through that latter piece, though. Wait a minute. No artist credited in this book. It's only in the play test, then who cares? Why even mention it? Yeah, I don't know. Just keep seeing this camp of artists who are using it to help them finish large projects. Well, that's true, too. Like, here we go, right? You want to get into this? Because one of the things that people have mentioned was, if, say, Chris, Todd, right? Say you're putting out a product and you just need placeholders, or you need concepts to show the artist that you're actually going to pay what you want them to come up with. And you show them an AI generated piece and go, see this? I want it to be something like this. Not exactly, but I want to pay you to put it together. Oh, okay. Like, instead of describing it, maybe they like visually showing. Ty says they don't use IR art in ICRPG, so I have no clue what they're talking about or if I'm even saying it right. AI, artificial intelligence art, generated by non-person, by the machines. Orcus Dorcas, this piece is by human, not an AI, I swear. Human, yeah. Hugh. Meatbag, a.k.a. Meatbag. We refer to Hugh Man as Meatbag. That's Hugh's nickname. Then they can go in and touch them up, Chris says, yeah. Todd says, I want something like this, but with 5 fingers on each hand. Hey, what's up, Living Ritual? I just jumped on. Yeah, well, you're coming in like right at the end. But I think I have the DVR on, so you can just scrub all the way to the back and start if you want. But meat popsicle, yeah. Todd says someone should use AI art to show the computer world for a Matrix game and human art for the Resistance. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've mentioned this before. People are like, but Sean, Eric Salzwiedel is a good guy. He's local here to Wisconsin, was north of me. Game with him a couple times and member of the Discord, supporter of the show. And he mentioned, I said, like the GM piece, like we're an endangered species. Of course, there's a little tongue in cheek, go figure, with how I conveyed that. But, you know, I put it out on Twitter, like, game masters are an endangered species in the tabletop RPG space. And he's like, well, that's because I said, eventually you're going to get it where you can create the text, or you can just straight create the audio from text or a recording, put your voice to it, maybe even use different voices. And then with, what's the face deep fake, right? With deep fake technology. And there's tools that already do this, right? You can take Sean's face, put it on somebody, or just animate it. Like take a picture of Sean, put it in AI to animate it. Have GPT chat come up with the script. Although that's going to be very static, right? And then you can put somebody else's voice to it, Sean's voice, right? And then Sean, based on the script, use that script, dump it into another AI, put a voice to it, take that, take a photo image, put motion onto it via AI. But you would say, but Sean, the chat doesn't have a way of responding yet. Not yet, but eventually it's going to be speech to text or speech to, I don't know, they can record your speech. So they're going to be able to hear you, interpret that, and then pop out a response. It's going to happen. Like, it's just a matter of time. Whether it's going to happen in a year or 10 years, it's going to happen. But Eric's response was, that's not the experience that I want. That's why I play face-to-face. It's the social piece, right? Sure. But if you're playing online, how would you know? If it got really good, right now you would be able to tell. But I think if at some point, could you even tell? Well, that's why I play face-to-face. That's my jam. Okay, that's fair. Chris says the pieces are all there. It's just a matter of time. Ty says, if I cared about the art then I back Kickstarter. Chris says speech to text as input is getting better all the time. Yeah. Who says, okay, I'm out. Do things in real life. Have a good day, folks. See Hoos. I don't think Hoos appreciates my vision of the future. Frankly, he's probably going to go and take care of something. Ty says, yeah, are you sad all the time while I'm here in this chat room, Chris? Huh. So Ty uses that all the time, he says. All right. I'm going to hang it up. Gotta hang it up. Well, darling, hang it up. Chris says there's a whole lot of people that are about to have an easier avenue to playing RPGs because GM scarcity won't be a thing anymore. Nuba says, I look forward to feeding Digital Sean links to Tabletop RPG news and listening to his AI-generated jokes. Craig, still here. Thanks for stopping by, man. Thanks for all of you stopping by. Thanks for everybody that showed up. Thanks for those that have showed up in the past, will show up in the future, that have showed up today. I very much appreciate it. Thanks to these folks right here that have supported me by throwing a few shekels my way each and every month. I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. And you know what? Heck, if, like I said, if you haven't liked the video, please do that. Like, apparently YouTube loves it. It's the thing you have to say when you're on YouTube. So by all means. Pencil Mage, I've been waiting on an AI GM since I was a little kiddo. Yeah, well, not too far off. Pencil Mage. Chris D, Professor, always good to see you. Glad you showed up. I'm here every Saturday, 8 a.m. Central Time, every Saturday, unless something's coming up for some reason. Might be an hour, might be 2 hours, have gone longer. But typically going over what's some of the new releases, Kickstarters, things of that, that have caught people's attention. Maybe we have a theme, a topic to talk about. But most importantly, having a really great interactive chat. So I really appreciate each and every one of you for participating in the chat. And if you're lying in the weeds, soaking it all in, sipping a cup of Joe or tea or a brewski, wherever you are, that's fine too. That's great. I really appreciate it. But before I go, let me see. Living Ritual. Good to see you. I'm pro AI. I don't think that many are, though. I also enjoy face-to-face social play. But if I was playing online with a bot so good I couldn't tell, then really what difference would it make? Living Ritual, man. He or she or they know the deal. Like, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, for sure. If you're going to do it at the social table, different experience. Get it. It's like, I understand. Like, some people, that's the only way that they're going to play RPGs. And that's fine. That's okay. But I agree. Like, if you're online, the technology's there. And unless it's like just a weird, like you could just tell by reading or seeing something something's just a little off. Maybe it's like the AI doesn't blink or something. Like you'll be able to, like, there's just a subtlety that stands out, right? Then how would you know? All right, Ty, let us know how Renfield is, but no spoilers. All right. Thank you so much again. Be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. You know, move, learn, create. Go out and do something fun. Enjoy yourself. Take some time to yourself if you need to. Spend time with people you enjoy. Don't spend time with people you don't enjoy. Life's too short. I'll let you go. Hope to see you next week. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later.